I'm standing in my office, the new Westlake High Yearbook in my hands, the 2023 edition. Fresh off the press, my fingers, they're trembling just a little as I flip to the faculty page. It's a familiar feeling, this nervous anticipation, a ghost of an old memory. And then I see it. Where my picture, Principal Eleanor Chen's picture, should be, there's this thing, a cartoon. Crude lines, exaggerated, making my face look like a prison warden's. Warden Chen, the caption sneers up at me. A laugh bubbles up. Not a bitter one. It's knowing. I reach for my pen, the good one, the Mont Blanc I bought myself when I made principal 5 years ago, a little reward, and I start signing. Right over the ridiculous drawing, I write, Justin, your artistic talent is undeniable. Let's talk about channeling it, E. Chen. My assistant, bless her efficient heart, is practically vibrating with indignation. Miss Chen, we have to recall these. It's outrageous. I cap my pen, a slow, deliberate motion. Oh, I don't know, Maria. I think it's fitting. A smile plays on my lips. In fact, I look up, meeting her bewildered gaze. I've been waiting 25 years for this moment. 23 years ago, 2000. God, that sounds like ancient history now. I was 17, Eleanor Chen, a senior at this very same Westlake High. Invisible, that's the word for it. Not bullied, not really. You have to be seen to be bullied. I was just air. A ghost in the hallways, a name on an honor roll. My parents, they were first generation. The American dream for them was spelled MIT. Good grades, that was the holy grail. Early acceptance letters, the sacred texts. Social life, that was a distraction, a frivolous American concept they didn't quite trust. So I had a 4.0 GPA, a ticket to MIT, and 0 friends. It meant nothing in the jungle telegraph of high school. Absolutely nothing. My one escape, my one secret rebellion, was photography. I'd saved for months for a decent secondhand SLR. I was on the yearbook committee. A strategic move, I'd thought. A way to be involved, to observe. My photos, though, they were always too artsy. That's what Brandon Cole, the editor-in-chief, a god in corduroy, would say. Mackenzie Reed, head cheerleader, Queen Bee, would just wrinkle her perfect nose. Who wants to see that, Ellie? We need more spirit. Spirit? Right, my candid shots, the ones that caught the flicker of loneliness in a jock's eyes after a lost game, or the nervous excitement of a freshman girl before her first dance, they never made the cut. Too real, too much. I'd take them anyway, develop them in the dingy darkroom, and keep them in a shoebox under my bed. My silent archive of Westlake's truth. I remember one afternoon trying to convince Brandon. But look, I'd said, holding up a black and white print of 2 band geeks sharing a nervous laugh before a competition. The light catching the silver of their instruments. This tells a story. Brandon had barely glanced at it. He was too busy cropping a photo of Tyler James, football star, midair, catching a pass. Golden boy, literally, in the afternoon sun. Yeah, Ellie, nice, but this, he tapped Tyler's photo, this is what sells yearbooks. Mackenzie had drifted over, all bouncy blonde ponytail and glossed lips. Oh, Tyler looks amazing there, Bran. Use that one. Definitely. She'd given my photo a dismissive glance. No offense, Ellie, but it's a bit depressing. Depressing, that was me, apparently. The depressing, artsy, invisible girl. Yearbook distribution day. I still remember the hum in the air, that electric current of anticipation. I was up early, a knot of excitement in my stomach. I was on the committee, after all. I'd seen the layouts, the proofs. Or so I thought. I got my copy from Mrs. Albright, the faculty advisor, a woman whose main contribution seemed to be sighing a lot and drinking lukewarm coffee. Here you go, Eleanor. You girls worked hard. Her smile was vague, already looking past me. I clutched it to my chest, hurrying to a quiet corner of the quad. My hands fumbled with the glossy cover. I flipped to the students behind the scenes page, the one where the yearbook committee members were supposed to be immortalized, and there it was. Or rather, there I wasn't. Everyone else was there. Brandon, smirking confidently. Mackenzie, beaming. even the quiet sophomores who mostly just ran errands. And then, my spot. My name, Eleanor Chen, was there. But my face, it was gone. Replaced, a cartoon. A hideous, cruel drawing of a girl with gigantic Coke bottle glasses I didn't wear, and buck teeth that would have made a beaver proud. Underneath it, scrawled in childish letters, Math Geek. My blood didn't just run cold, it froze. The world tilted. I could hear the roaring in my ears, the laughter of other students nearby suddenly sounding like hyenas. I flipped through the rest of the book, my hands shaking so badly the pages blurred. Was it just my copy? A horrible targeted joke? No, I saw other kids opening theirs, whispers, snickers, pointing. It was in every single one. I found Mrs. Albright in the chaotic gymnasium, students already passing books around, Sharpies flying. Mrs. Albright, my voice was a strangled whisper. Look, my picture. She took the book, adjusted her glasses. Her sigh this time was deeper, tinged with something that might have been annoyance. Oh dear, well, Eleanor, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate? I could feel tears welling, hot and shameful. What happened? Who did this? I really couldn't say, she said, already handing the book back. Some sort of printing error, I imagine. Or perhaps the students. You know how they are. It's too late now, Eleanor. The books are all out. There's nothing to be done. Nothing to be done. I saw Brandon and Mackenzie across the gym, surrounded by their adoring court. They were laughing, signing yearbooks. Mackenzie caught my eye for a split second. No sympathy, just a flicker of something, smugness, triumph. Then she turned away, her laughter a little too loud. Their feigned ignorance was louder than any confession. The principal back then was Mr. Henderson, a man whose priorities were football trophies and keeping the school board happy. Student welfare? Not so much. I ended up in his office, clutching the defaced yearbook, my voice trembling as I tried to explain the humiliation. He leaned back in his big leather chair, steepling his fingers. He didn't even look at the page properly. Eleanor, he said, his voice laced with a weary sort of condescension. It's a high school yearbook, a bit of harmless fun. Kids will be kids. Try to have a sense of humor about it, all right? A sense of humor. I stumbled out of his office, numb. The laughter in the hallways felt like physical blows. Graduation. It should have been a triumph. Valedictorian. Me, Eleanor Chen. I stood at that podium, looking out at a sea of faces. My speech was about, I don't even remember, the future, probably, potential. Hollow words, even to my own ears, polite applause, a smattering of it. I could feel the disinterest rolling off them in waves. They were just waiting for the real part, the cap tossing, the parties, the yearbook signing. And the signing, that was the worst. I stood there, certificate in hand, a forced smile plastered on my face, while everyone else swarmed each other. Yearbooks open, pens flashing, promises to kit, keep in touch. Inside jokes scrawled across glossy pages. No one came near me. I was an island, invisible again, but this time it was a deliberate shunning. The math geek caricature had done its job. Then, I don't know what possessed me. A sudden, reckless surge of something defiance? A desperate need for some kind of acknowledgement, even a cruel one? I walked over to them. Tyler James, all-American smile firmly in place, already a local legend. Mackenzie Reed, her cheerleader uniform swapped for a white dress that probably cost more than my family's monthly grocery bill. And Brandon Cole, yearbook editor, future journalist kingmaker. They were the center of a swirling galaxy of admirers. Hey, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, would you guys mind signing my yearbook? There was a beat of silence, an awkward, charged pause. Tyler's smile faltered for a microsecond. Mackenzie's eyes flickered to Brandon. He gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shrug. Sure, Ellie, Tyler said, his voice a little too hearty. He took my yearbook. His message was generic. Have a great summer, Tyler J. Mackenzie followed. Yeah, good luck at MIT, Mackenzie R. Her smile was tight, brittle. Brandon was last. He scribbled something quickly. All the best, Eleanor. Brandon C. I mumbled a thank you. took the book, and walked away, the weight of their insincere wishes pressing down on me. Later that night, alone in my room, I really looked at what they'd written. And then I flipped through the other pages. They hadn't just signed their names. Oh no, when I wasn't looking, they'd added things. Little cruel doodles, comments. Nerd alert, next to the chess club photo. Future cat lady, under my untouched valedictorian picture. My academic awards page had "Who cares?" scrawled across it. The fire pit in our backyard. My dad used it for burning leaves in the fall. That night, it burned my yearbook. I watched the pages curl, the ink bubble, Mackenzie's perfect smile blacken and disappear. Tyler's all-American face contorted in the flames. Brandon's neat signature turned to ash. "I'm leaving," I whispered to the crackling fire. "And I'm never, ever coming back to Westlake." The vow felt like a brand on my soul, and I did leave. MIT was a blur of problem sets and late-night coding sessions. It was hard, relentless, but it was fair. Your work spoke for itself. No popularity contests, no cruel caricatures. Just merit. I graduated with honors, the immigrant parents beaming, their dream fulfilled. But it wasn't my dream, not entirely. The sting of Westlake, it lingered. That feeling of being voiceless, of being dismissed, it fueled something in me. I went on, got my doctorate educational leadership. A mouthful, I know, but it meant something. It meant I could be in charge. I could make the rules. I worked my way up. Teacher first, in a tough inner-city school where I learned more than I taught. Then, assistant principal in a sprawling suburban complex. Then, a vice principal role at a prestigious academy that looked a lot like Westlake, only richer. I changed. The shy, invisible Ellie faded. Dr. Eleanor Chen emerged. Confident, stylish, in a minimalist, no-nonsense way. Successful. I built walls, though. Kept people at a professional distance. Personal relationships? Complicated. Easier to manage a school budget than the messy terrain of the human heart. I told myself I was focused, driven. Maybe I was just scared. 15 years of climbing, of proving, of building this new Eleanor, and then an email, a job posting, principal, Westlake High School. I stared at the screen, a weird jolt going through me. Westlake, the place I'd vowed never to return to. It should have been an easy delete, but my finger hovered over the mouse. There was a symmetry to it, a cruel kind of poetry. The invisible girl returning as the one in charge. I told myself it was practical. Westlake had a decent STEM program I'd read. I could develop it further, a good career move, logical. But deep down, a smaller, younger voice whispered, "Go back, show them." I applied. The interview. Walking back into Westlake High felt like stepping into a time warp, even though the place had changed. Renovations, new tech, a fancy digital welcome sign in the lobby. But the smell was the same. Floor wax, old textbooks, teenage angst. And the vibe. That was eerily familiar too. The jocks still swaggered. The it girls still traveled in packs, their laughter echoing a little too loudly. The interview committee, a panel of faces. Some new, some not. Mr. Davies, my old chemistry teacher, a bit grayer, a bit heavier, but unmistakably him. Mrs. Henderson, the former principal's wife, now on the school board, her smile just as tight and evaluating as I remembered. Did they recognize me? Eleanor Chen, the quiet girl from their AP classes 2 decades ago? Not a flicker. I was Dr. Chen now, from out of town, an impressive resume in their hands. "Dr. Chen," Mr. Davies had said, peering at my CV, "your work in curriculum development is quite remarkable." "Thank you," I'd replied, my voice calm, professional. No hint of the nervous 17-year-old who once sat in his classroom, terrified of being called on. I believe in fostering an environment where all students can achieve their potential. All students, even the invisible ones. They asked about discipline, about budgets, about parent engagement. I gave them the answers they wanted, the polished, confident responses of an experienced administrator. I talked about vision, about leadership, about building a positive school culture. I got the job. Of course I did. I was the best candidate. The night before my first official day as Principal Chen, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that damn yearbook page, the cartoon face, the math geek. It was like a stuck record in my brain. I had a dream, vivid and unsettling. The 2000 yearbook, lying open on a desk, the pages flipping by themselves, faster and faster until they landed on that defaced photo, the cartoon eyes seeming to wink at me. I woke up with a gasp, my heart pounding. Just a dream, I told myself, just nerves. My first day, a whirlwind. Meetings with department heads. A fire drill, unplanned, a student pulled the alarm, some things never change. A tearful freshman who'd lost her locker combination. A budget spreadsheet that refused to balance. The usual chaos of running a high school. The faculty, they were wary. I was new, an outsider, and I had ideas. That always makes established teachers nervous. Dr. Chen seems efficient, I overheard one say in the staff room. A bit cold, though, don't you think? Cold, efficient. That was me. That was the armor I'd built. End of the day. The last bell had rung. The yellow buses had rumbled away. The hallways, finally quiet, echoed with my footsteps. I found myself drawn, almost against my will, to the yearbook room. It was in the same stuffy corner of the basement it had always been. Smelled the same too, chemicals, paper, dust. The archives were still there, rows of bound volumes. I pulled out the 2000 edition. My hands weren't shaking this time. Just a strange, heavy certainty. I opened it to the students behind the scenes page, and there I was. Or rather, there was the cartoon. Math geek. 23 years and the sting was still there. A dull ache, a ghost pain. Not as sharp as it once was, but present. Real. I stared at it, this crude effigy of my teenage humiliation. And as I looked, a bizarre sensation washed over me. Vertigo. The room seemed to tilt, the dusty shelves wavering. An intense, overwhelming wave of déjà vu, so strong it was disorienting. The air crackled. The smell of old paper and chemicals intensified, almost suffocating. My head throbbed, a sudden, violent pain behind my eyes. The room, it was spinning, actually spinning. I reached out to steady myself on a table, missed. My knees buckled. The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me was that leering cartoon face on the page. I woke up to beeping, and the smell of antiseptic. Hospital. My head felt like it was stuffed with cotton, and a dull pounding echoed with every beep of the monitor beside me. Welcome back, Dr. Chen. A kind-faced doctor smiled down at me. You gave us quite a scare. A seizure, they said. An unusual neurological event. In the yearbook room, how ironic. While they were running tests, poking and prodding, they found it. A small, insidious bulge in a blood vessel in my brain. An aneurysm. A ticking time bomb that had apparently been there for years, silent, waiting. If I hadn't collapsed, if they hadn't found it, well, the doctor didn't need to finish the sentence. Surgery, weeks of recovery. My head shaved in one patch, a neat row of staples hidden beneath a strategically placed headscarf. My mother flew in, fussing and cooking bland, healthy food. My father called every night, his voice gruff with unshed tears. You rest, Eleanor, just rest. During those weeks, floating in a haze of medication and enforced idleness, the dreams started. Vivid, detailed. Dreams of my high school years, not just the bad stuff, random moments. A specific conversation in the cafeteria, the way the sunlight fell through the windows in the library. Things I hadn't consciously remembered in decades, they felt real. More than real. Almost like I was reliving them. Prophetic, some of them seemed. I'd dream of a specific test question from AP history, and the next day, while idly flipping through an old textbook someone had brought me, I'd see that exact question. Coincidence, I told myself. Stress, the medication, the trauma of surgery. When they finally cleared me to go back to work, something felt different. Not just physically, it was deeper. Like the world was a little brighter, the colors sharper. Like I'd been given a mulligan, a do-over, though for what, I had no idea, a second chance. That phrase kept echoing in my mind, back at Westlake, back in the principal's office. Everyone was solicitous, overly kind. Don't overdo it, Dr. Chen. So glad to have you back. One of the first things I did, and it raised a few eyebrows, was announce that I would be the new staff advisor for the yearbook committee. But Dr. Chen, my assistant Maria had said, perplexed, the principal doesn't usually. I mean, Miss Davison has been doing it for years. Miss Davison can assist, I'd said firmly. I want to be more directly involved. They didn't understand. How could they? It wasn't just about a student activity, it was personal. The yearbook editor that year was a girl named Zoe Miller, bright, talented, quiet. She had a fantastic eye for photography, a real knack for capturing those unscripted moments, the ones I'd always loved. But she was hesitant, easily swayed by the louder, more popular students on the committee who wanted more posed group shots, more glamour, less art. She reminded me so much of myself it was uncanny, painfully so. Zoe, I said to her one afternoon, looking over her contact sheets. She'd caught a stunning, candid shot of two friends sharing a heartfelt hug after winning a debate competition. Raw emotion, beautifully framed. This is exceptional. She flushed. You think so? Kayla and Brittany said it was too, I don't know, not exciting enough. Kayla and Brittany were the Mackenzie and Brandon of this generation, all gloss and confidence. What do you think, Zoe? I asked gently. She bit her lip. I like it. I think it shows what Westlake is really about sometimes. Then fight for it, I said, maybe a little too intensely. Your vision is valid. Don't let them bulldoze you. She looked surprised, then a small, determined spark lit her eyes. Okay, Dr. Chen, I will. I told myself I was just being a good principal, a supportive mentor, nurturing student talent. But every time I walked into that yearbook room, every time I saw Zoe struggling to make her voice heard, it was like looking into a distorted mirror of my own past. The end of the school year. The yearbooks arrived, fresh from the printer. I had an advance copy on my desk. I felt that old, familiar tremor of anticipation, but this time, it was overlaid with a sense of dread I couldn't quite shake. I flipped to the behind-the-scenes page. My breath hitched. Zoe Miller. Her name was there, her spot was there, but her face, it was a caricature. An unflattering, cartoonish drawing of a girl with an oversized camera obscuring her face, labeled photo nerd. Not again, not again. A red wave of fury washed over me. Hotter, fiercer than anything I'd felt 23 years ago. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about Zoe. This was about the promise I'd made to myself, unspoken, to make Westlake different. Maria, I barked into the intercom. Get me the distribution list for these yearbooks, now, and call Miss Davison. Tell her to halt any distribution immediately. My anger was a living thing, a beast unleashed. It was for Zoe, for her talent, for her quiet vulnerability. But it was also for 17-year-old Ellie, the girl who never got justice, the girl whose principal told her to have a sense of humor about it. I was going to bring the hammer down, recalls, suspensions, whatever it took. This would not stand, not on my watch. That night, alone in my house, the fury still simmering, my head started to throb. That same specific pain behind the eyes, an icy premonition snaked down my spine. No, not now. I clutched my head, the room starting to tilt. The last coherent thought I had, as the world dissolved into a spinning vortex of pain and confusion, was of that yearbook. Zoe's defaced photo. My defaced photo. Some things never change. Then blackness. My eyes snapped open. Not to the sterile white of a hospital ceiling, not to the familiar patterned wallpaper of my own bedroom in 2023. No. I was staring at a poster of a boy band I vaguely remembered, their frosted tips and coordinated denim outfits an assault on the senses. My childhood bedroom, flowered wallpaper I hadn't seen in over 2 decades. My old battered desk cluttered with textbooks that felt ancient. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at my throat. I scrambled out of the twin bed, my limbs feeling younger, lighter. I rushed to the mirror, a cheap, full-length one I'd stuck to the back of my closet door. A 17-year-old girl stared back at me. Me, but not me. Not the 42-year-old Dr. Chen. This was Ellie. Skinny, a little awkward, my hair long and untamed. My God, I was 17 again. But inside my head, inside this teenage skull was all of it. 42 years of memories. MIT, my doctorate, my career, the aneurysm, Zoe, the second yearbook prank, all of it, crystal clear. I stumbled over to the desk, my hand shaking. A calendar hung there, a freebie from a local bank. My eyes scanned the date, refusing to believe, praying this was some hyper-realistic stress-induced nightmare. May 2000, 3 weeks. 3 weeks before my high school graduation. 3 weeks before the original yearbook incident. I sank to the floor, my legs giving out. My breath came in ragged gasps. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a psychotic break. Days passed. I woke up each morning in this room, in this body, in this year. I had to accept it, the impossible. Somehow, some way, I'd been sent back. Back to the exact moment it all went wrong. A chance to relive it. Or what? Okay, Eleanor, Ellie, whoever I was now, breathe, think. I was 17, trapped in a teenager's body with a teenager's limited freedoms. My parents were downstairs, their 2000-era selves, blissfully unaware that their daughter had aged 25 years overnight and then regressed. They still expected me to get good grades, be home by curfew, and not talk back. Limited funds. My part-time job at the library barely covered my film developing costs. And my MIT acceptance? That was paramount. I had to maintain my grades, my perfect student persona, or lose the future I had already lived. But the knowledge. That was my superpower. I knew what was coming. The yearbook prank, the architects of it, Brandon, Mackenzie, Tyler. In my first life, I'd never been sure exactly who was behind it, only that they were part of that popular clique. Now I knew I could stop it. That was the obvious first step, prevent my own humiliation. But then what? Was this just about fixing one shitty high school memory, or was it bigger? The headache, the collapse. Was this a temporary rewind? Would I snap back to 2023 once this particular crisis point had passed? Or was I stuck here, doomed to relive every single day of the next 25 years? The thought was terrifying. If this was a longer game, then this wasn't just about the yearbook. This was about everything, every choice, every mistake, every missed opportunity. I looked at my 17-year-old reflection again. The fear was still there, but something else was stirring, a thrill, a dangerous, exhilarating sense of possibility. Adult wisdom, future knowledge, in the hands of a teenager. All right, Westlake High, round 2, let's play. The first thing I did was change my hair. Sounds trivial, I know. But you have no idea how liberating it felt to chop off that lank, shapeless curtain and get a style that actually, well, styled. Something chic, something that said, I know who I am, even if the who I am was a time-traveling 42-year-old in a 17-year-old's body. My clothes, too. I didn't have the money for a new wardrobe, but I had adult taste. I started putting things together differently. Less hiding, more intention. The confidence wasn't faked. It was real, earned over 2 decades of life I was now, apparently, pre-living. In class, I didn't just answer questions correctly. I engaged. I debated. I offered insights that made teachers blink and look at me with new respect. Mr. Davies, my chemistry teacher, the one who wouldn't recognize me 23 years in the future, he looked at me now, a small frown of surprised approval on his face. Eleanor, that's a remarkably astute observation. I navigated the hallways differently. Head up, shoulders back. I wasn't invisible anymore because I refused to be invisible. I made eye contact. I smiled. A genuine, confident smile that wasn't asking for approval, just offering acknowledgement. And people noticed, of course they did. The change was too abrupt, too radical. Whispers followed me now, but they weren't the pitying whispers of math geek day. They were curious, intrigued. What's up with Ellie Chen? I overheard one of the popular girls, a friend of Mackenzie's, ask another, did she get a personality transplant over the weekend? Something like that, I thought, a private smile on my lips. Something exactly like that. Mackenzie Reed, head cheerleader, Queen Bee. One of the holy trinity of my high school humiliation. In my first life, I'd been terrified of her casual cruelty, her effortless popularity. This time, I knew her future, or at least a possible future. I knew the gloss was just a veneer. I found her stressing over a history assignment in the library, chewing on the end of her pen, a frown marring her usually perfect forehead. Stuck on the causes of the Peloponnesian War? I asked, sliding into the chair opposite her. She looked up, startled. Yeah, Mr. Harrison is going to kill me. I just don't get it. In my first life, I would have mumbled an apology for interrupting and fled. This Ellie? This Ellie leaned forward. It's all about the shifting power dynamics between Athens and Sparta, I began, and then proceeded to give her a concise, insightful breakdown that would have made my old history professor proud. I even threw in a few human interest anecdotes I remembered from some future documentary. Mackenzie stared at me, pen forgotten. Wow, you make it actually sound interesting and understandable. It is interesting, I said, smiling. History's just stories about people, right? And people are always complicated. I paused, then added, You're really good at rallying people, Mackenzie. That pep rally last week? That took serious organizational skills. You have a natural leadership ability. It was true, and it caught her off guard. A genuine compliment, not fawning, just an observation. She blinked. Oh, thanks, Ellie. Slowly, tentatively, a bridge was built. I didn't try to be her best friend. I just offered occasional help, insightful comments, and treated her like a person, not an archetype. And I started to see the cracks in her perfect facade, the way her smile sometimes didn't reach her eyes, the hushed, tense phone calls she'd take, her voice tight with worry. One afternoon, she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. My dad, he lost his job, again. And he's drinking, a lot. I don't know how we're going to afford college. Any college. This was new. This was something 17-year-old invisible Ellie had never known, never could have known. The popular Queen Bee had problems. Real, painful problems. It didn't excuse future cruelty, but it complicated things. It made her human. Tyler James, football god, Mr. Popular. He was harder to crack. He moved in a different orbit, one of adulation and effortless cool. My in? Sports. I knew things. Not just who would win the upcoming NBA Finals, go Lakers 2000. I knew about specific plays, underdog victories, draft picks that would turn out to be game changers. I started dropping comments, casual predictions, in earshot of Tyler and his buddies. Keep an eye on that rookie quarterback for the Rams, I'd say thoughtfully. Kurt Warner, he's going to surprise everyone. This was before he became a legend, of course. They'd laugh it off at first. Yeah, right, Chen. What do you know about football? But then my predictions started coming true. Consistently. It freaked them out a little. How do you do that, Chen? Tyler asked one day, half admiring, half suspicious, after I'd correctly called a major upset in college baseball. I just shrugged, a mysterious little smile. Lucky guesses, I suppose. Intuition. Let them think I was some kind of sports psychic. It was easier than explaining temporal displacement. Brandon Cole, yearbook editor, the artistic one. The one whose approval I'd craved and whose casual dismissal had stung so much. With him, it wasn't about sports or history. It was about photography. My old approach, submitting my artsy photos through official channels, had failed spectacularly. This time, I went rogue. I put together a small portfolio of my best work, the candid, evocative shots I'd always loved, printed with the skill of someone who'd spent years honing her craft, albeit in a future timeline. And I left it anonymously on his desk in the yearbook room with a cryptic note. Thought you might appreciate these. A few days later, he was buzzing about it. Did you see these photos? Someone just left them. They're incredible. Who took them? He demanded of the other committee members. I waited for the right moment, then strolled in. Oh, those? Yeah, those are mine. The look on his face, astonishment, disbelief, and then a grudging, undeniable respect. He couldn't dismiss the evidence of his own eyes. The photos were good. Damn good. He was forced to acknowledge it. Chen, he said, incredulous. You took these? Yep, I said, leaning against the doorframe, radiating a cool confidence I'd never possessed at 17. Got any more like that? Was his next, almost immediate question. The dynamic had shifted. I wasn't begging for a spot anymore. I was a talent they needed. I was in. Not just on the yearbook committee, but in their conversations, their planning sessions, their gossip. It was a strange, out-of-body experience, like watching a play where I knew all the lines, all the backstage secrets. And yes, the prank was being planned, just like before. It started as a whisper, a joke. Mackenzie, still smarting from some perceived slight by a teacher, giggled about wanting to mess with someone. Tyler, ever the follower when it wasn't about football, thought it was hilarious. But the actual idea, the specific idea, of replacing my photo with a caricature? That came from Brandon. I was there in the yearbook room, supposedly looking for a specific font, when I overheard him. He was talking to Mackenzie, his voice low, conspiratorial. "Seriously, that Ellie Chen," he muttered, flipping through some of my submitted photos. Photos he now publicly praised. "She thinks she's so artsy-fartsy with these moody shots. Always trying to be so deep." There was a definite edge of jealousy in his voice, something I'd been too naive to recognize the first time. It'd be funny to just take her down a peg, you know? Like a math geek cartoon instead of her oh-so-serious face. Mackenzie had giggled. "Oh my God, Bran, that's evil. I love it." Evil, yes, and petty, and born of insecurity. My first instinct was to expose them. To march into Mrs. Albright's office, who was just as ineffectual in this timeline, by the way, and lay it all out. Or to confront Brandon directly. "I know what you're planning." But something stopped me. What would that achieve? A slap on the wrist? A temporary reprieve? It wouldn't change Brandon's jealousy, or Mackenzie's casual cruelty, or the culture of the school that allowed this stuff to happen. No. This time, it had to be different. I wasn't just going to prevent the prank. I was going to use it. I was going to play a longer game. One that might actually teach them something. One that might change them. A more elaborate response began to form in my mind. A plan that was audacious, a little terrifying, and felt absolutely undeniably right. Preventing my own humiliation was easy now. Too easy. But that wasn't the point anymore, was it? This weird, impossible rebirth? It had to be for something more than just saving 17-year-old Ellie from a bad day, and I wanted to change the system. The casual cruelties, the cliques, the way talent was dismissed if it didn't fit the popular mold. Westlake High needed a shakeup, and maybe, just maybe, I was the unlikely earthquake it needed. So I played along. I became indispensable to Brandon on the yearbook. I helped with layouts. I took the crappy assignments no one else wanted. The Glee Club, the science fair, and I made them look good. I even taught him a few advanced Photoshop tricks I'd learned in my other life as a principal who occasionally had to design school brochures. He soaked it up, his initial jealousy slowly morphing into a grudging reliance. All the while I was documenting. Quietly, methodically. The casual way yearbook funds were sometimes diverted for pizza parties that only the inner circle attended. The way Mrs. Albright signed off on proofs without really looking at them. The little compromises, the ethical lapses. Not for blackmail, not exactly. But for leverage, for future understanding. And then, opportunity knocked. The senior class president, a vapid but generally harmless guy named Chad, got caught in a cheating scandal. Plagiarism. Stupid, really. He was impeached. Stripped of his title, a special election was announced. In my first life, running for class president would have been as likely as me sprouting wings and flying to the moon. This Ellie saw an opening. My campaign was unconventional. No posters with cheesy slogans, no promises of better prom themes or more vending machines. I stood up in the emergency assembly and I talked. I talked about respect, about leaving a legacy, about making Westlake a place where everyone felt seen, not just the stars of the football team or the head cheerleader. I quoted future thinkers, philosophers, even snippets of speeches I myself would give as Principal Chen. Of course, no one knew that. To them, it just sounded like this quiet girl, Ellie Chen, had suddenly found her voice and had some surprisingly profound things to say. I half expected to be laughed off the stage. Instead, there was a stunned silence. And then, applause. Hesitant at first, then growing. From the geeks, the artists, the band kids, but also from some of the jocks, the popular girls who looked at me with a new, puzzled expression. Maybe, just maybe, they were ready for something different too. I won. Senior class president Ellie Chen. By a landslide. Even I was a little shocked. Chad, the disgraced ex-president, looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Brandon, Mackenzie, and Tyler, they looked utterly bewildered. Their carefully constructed high school universe had just been tilted on its axis. Graduation day. This time, when I stood at that podium, it wasn't just as valedictorian. It was as their president. And my speech, it was different. I didn't talk about some vague, undefined future. I talked about them, about now. High school isn't the end, I said, my voice clear and strong, resonating through the auditorium. It's not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. The choices you make here, the person you are here, they matter. Not because of who you're popular with, or what team you're on, or what grade you get in chemistry, but because of how you treat each other. That's your real transcript. That's what you take with you. I looked directly at Brandon, at Mackenzie, at Tyler. No accusation in my gaze, just a challenge. An invitation. The applause this time was real, sustained. It felt good. Yearbook distribution. I took my copy, my heart surprisingly calm. I flipped to the students behind the scenes page. And there I was, my actual photo. Looking serious, a little intense, but definitely me. No caricature, no math geek. Brandon had at some point quietly scrapped the prank. My infiltration, my unexpected rise, had made it untenable even for him. But there was another change, a small thing, but significant. The most likely to succeed superlative. In my first life, it had gone to Tyler naturally. This time, it was under my picture, Ellie Chen, and the signing? Oh, the signing was different. This time, they came to me. A steady stream of classmates. People I barely knew, people who'd never spoken to me before. They wanted my signature. They wanted to write something in my yearbook. Mackenzie approached, hesitant. Ellie, that was an amazing speech. She signed my book. You're going to do great things. I mean it, Mackenzie. There was a new respect in her eyes and maybe, just maybe, a touch of guilt for what she'd almost participated in. Tyler, awkward and boyish without his football helmet, mumbled, "Hey, Prez, good stuff." He wrote, "Keep being you, Ellie. Tyler?" Brandon was last. He looked conflicted. "Ellie," he said quietly, "about the yearbook, your photo, It looks great, Brandon," I said, cutting him off gently. "No need for a confession, not now. You did a good job with the whole thing." He just nodded, then signed, "To a surprising and impressive leader, best Brandon." As I walked away, yearbook clutched in my hand, filled with genuine messages this time, I felt a lightness I hadn't known was possible. This wasn't just about averting a prank. This was about rewriting a narrative. My narrative. And maybe, just maybe, theirs too. The all-night party, grad night, held at the school gym, a lock-in chaperoned by weary teachers. In my first life, I'd skipped it. Gone home, nursed my humiliation, and prepared for my escape. This Ellie? She went. As class president, it was almost an obligation, but also, I was curious. It was loud, chaotic, a swirl of sugary drinks, bad DJ music, and the bittersweet euphoria of imminent departure. I wasn't the belle of the ball, not by a long shot. But I wasn't invisible either. People talked to me, laughed with me. It was nice, normal. Towards the early hours of the morning, as the party started to wind down, the sugar highs crashing, I found myself on the bleachers with Brandon. Most everyone else was either asleep on tumbling mats or engaged in heartfelt whispered goodbyes. He was quiet for a long time, just staring out at the deflated volleyball net. Then, he said, his voice low, "You know, Ellie, I was a real jerk this year." I waited. "That prank," he continued, not looking at me. "The one with your photo, that was my idea. I don't know, jealous, I guess. You were so good with the camera, and I felt like you were showing me up, even though you weren't even trying to. What changed your mind? I asked softly, even though I already knew. My campaign, my speech, the subtle ways I'd earned his respect, photograph by photograph, idea by idea. He finally looked at me, a wry, self deprecating smile on his face. You did, Chen. You did. You became, you became someone I couldn't do that to, someone I actually respect. It just felt stupid, mean, and I didn't want to be that guy. Good, I said. Don't be that guy, Brandon. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. The sky outside the gym windows was beginning to lighten, painting the world in shades of gray and soft pink. Dawn. As I walked home later, the cool morning air on my face, the sounds of the waking city around me, I felt it. That familiar, ominous throb behind my eyes, growing stronger. Ah, I thought, a strange sense of calm washing over me. So this is it. Mission accomplished. Time to go back. I didn't fight it. I closed my eyes, embracing the dizzying spin, the pull of whatever force had brought me here. Ready for 2023, ready for my principal's office, ready for the next chapter. Or so I thought. I opened my eyes, expecting my principal's office, expecting Maria's concerned face. Instead, a cinder block wall, a narrow bed, a roommate I didn't recognize snoring softly in the bunk above me, and the unmistakable smell of instant noodles and stale coffee. A college dorm room. Panic again, sharp and cold. I scrambled out of bed, searching for a calendar, a phone, anything. There, pinned to a corkboard, September 2000, MIT. No. I wasn't back in 2023. I was still here, still in the past. Still 17, well, almost 18 now. I just moved on to the next stage, the stage I was supposed to be at after graduating high school. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't just about fixing one bad high school memory. This wasn't a targeted intervention. I was being given the chance, or cursed, depending on how you looked at it, to relive my entire life. 25 years all over again. What did that mean? How much should I change? Could I change? The thought was overwhelming, a vast, uncharted ocean of possibilities and potential paradoxes. My carefully orchestrated high school redux suddenly felt like a small, insignificant skirmish before a long, drawn-out war. The question wasn't just, could I do it better this time? It was, should I? And what would be the cost? College the second time around was different. I had the roadmap, right? I knew which classes were brutal, which professors were inspiring, which extracurriculars were a waste of time. First, the practical stuff. Money. In my first life, I'd graduated with a mountain of student debt that had taken me years to pay off. This time, I knew about scholarships I'd been too clueless or too overwhelmed to apply for the first time. Obscure grants for women in STEM, essay contests with surprisingly large payouts. I applied for everything, and I got a lot of them. Financial freedom, or at least less financial servitude. That was a big change, my major. First time, pure mathematics. It was challenging, intellectually stimulating, but my heart hadn't been in it, not really. This time, I knew where I was headed. Education, with a minor in psychology. My passion, the one I'd only discovered later in my first life, I could pursue it from day one. Friendships. That was harder. In my first life at MIT, I'd been a loner, head down, focused on work. This time, I tried. I joined study groups. I went to the occasional awkward dorm party. I made an effort to connect with people. It wasn't easy. The 42-year-old in my head often found the concerns of actual 18-year-olds trivial, but I learned. I listened. I found a few kindred spirits, people who saw past the slightly too mature for her age vibe I probably radiated. Dating. Oh God, dating. I'd had a few disastrous relationships in my first life. This time, I knew the red flags. I dated different people. I even struck up a conversation with that cute teaching assistant in my ethics class, the one I'd had a massive silent crush on the first time around, but had been way too shy to even make eye contact with. We actually went out a few times. It didn't last, but it was healing in a small way. But then the unsettling part, the butterfly effects, little changes I made, ripples spreading outwards, making my future knowledge less reliable. I'd recommend a specific stock to a friend as a joke, something I knew was going to take off in a few years and it would tank. Or a political event I remembered unfolding a certain way would veer off course. The further I got from 2000, the fuzzier my crystal ball became. The universe, it seemed, was self-correcting. Or perhaps I was creating a new, divergent timeline with every choice I made. It was a sobering thought. I wasn't omniscient anymore. I was just experienced. Graduation from MIT, take two. This time with a degree in education and a much clearer sense of purpose. In my first life, my career path had been about ambition, about climbing the ladder, proving myself. Prestige, accolades. This time, it was different. My experiences at Westlake, both the original and the Redux, had planted a seed. Student mental health, educational reform, creating supportive learning environments. That's what drove me now. I still aimed for administration. I still wanted to be a principal. But the why had changed. It wasn't about power or proving anyone wrong. It was about making a real difference. I took teaching jobs in challenging schools by choice. I learned from the ground up. Again, I volunteered for curriculum development committees. I started after-school programs focused on peer counseling and creative expression. And then, in 2010, I was 28 in this timeline and email, a job posting, Westlake High School. Not for principal, not yet. For an AP psychology and photography teacher. 10 years. 10 years since I'd graduated from that place, having rewritten my own ending there. The pull was undeniable. It felt right. Like a circle closing, or perhaps a new one beginning. I applied. My resume, even at 28, was impressive. My interview, informed by years of actual teaching and a deep, if secret, understanding of Westlake's specific culture, was apparently stellar. I got the job. Miss Chen was returning to Westlake. Again. Walking into Westlake High as Miss Chen, teacher, in 2010, was another surreal experience in a life increasingly full of them. I was 28. Some of my former teachers were still there. Mr. Davies, chemistry, now department head. Mrs. Albright, still overseeing the yearbook, still sighing. None of them recognized me. Why would they? The quiet, intense Ellie Chen from a decade ago was a ghost. I was a confident, experienced educator with a master's degree and a compelling vision for student engagement. I loved teaching, truly loved it. AP psychology was a blast. I could bring in all my, advanced insights into human behavior. And photography, that was my heart. I resurrected the old darkroom, taught kids the magic of film alongside digital. I encouraged them to find their own voices, to capture the authentic, the real. I became a favorite. Miss Chen is so cool. She actually listens. She makes psych fun. The students responded to my genuine interest, my slightly unconventional methods. I started a peer counseling program training older students to support younger ones. The photography club, under my guidance, became one of the most popular on campus. We did exhibitions, we won awards. It was fulfilling, deeply. But always in the back of my mind was the yearbook, the ghost of that old humiliation and the quiet triumph of its correction. It was inevitable, I suppose. 2 years into my teaching tenure at Westlake, Mrs. Albright finally retired. Her size apparently had reached their limit. The yearbook advisor position opened up. Anyone interested? The principal at the time, a decent but rather uninspired man named Mr. Henderson, no relation to the one from my first life, thankfully, asked at a staff meeting. My hand shot up. I'll do it. There were a few surprised looks. The yearbook was a lot of work, a thankless task for many. But for me, it was a calling. My yearbook committee was going to be different. No more popularity contests, no more too artsy dismissals. We were going to capture everyone. The diversity of the student body, the quiet moments, the unsung heroes, and ethics. Oh, we were going to have ethics. I drafted a new code of conduct for the yearbook staff. Strict guidelines. No alterations to photos without express consent. No cruel captions. No jokes at anyone else's expense. Everyone who joined had to sign it. I based it, of course, on everything that had gone wrong in my own past, both versions of it. Zoe Miller. I often wondered what happened to her in the original timeline, the one where I'd collapsed before I could help her. In this new timeline, there would be no Zoe Millers defaced. Not on my watch. The Westlake Yearbook under Miss Chen started winning awards for inclusivity, for design, for capturing the true spirit of the school. It became a source of pride, not pain. Years passed, good years. I poured myself into Westlake, my students, my programs. Promotion came. Department head of social studies and arts. Then assistant principal. My innovative programs. My focus on student well-being. My ability to connect with even the most challenging kids. It got noticed. Parents loved me. Students trusted me. Some of the older faculty, the traditionalists, they grumbled. Too progressive, too soft. Where's the discipline? They didn't understand that respect, genuine connection, was a far more effective tool than detentions and suspensions. I kept a close eye on the yearbook every single year, mentored every editor, championed every shy, creative kid who reminded me of my younger self or of Zoe. I made sure they had a voice, a platform. The memory of my first life, my life as Principal Chen who'd had the aneurysm, it was still there, but fainter now. Like a dream you can only half remember. This life, this new life, felt more real, more substantial. I was shaping it, actively. It happened earlier this time. 5 years earlier than in my original timeline. The principal, Mr. Henderson, announced his retirement. The search for his replacement began. I was an obvious candidate, the internal choice. Young, yes, I was only 35. But I had the track record, the support of the students, the parents, a significant portion of the faculty. I got the job, Principal Eleanor Chen, again. But this time, I was a different Eleanor Chen, younger, forged in a different fire. Not haunted by the past, but informed by it. My appointment was celebrated. There was a buzz around the school, excitement, hope. Even the resistant older teachers seemed cautiously optimistic. Or maybe just resigned. First day as principal, again. The déjà vu was less jarring this time, more like a familiar echo. After the bell, after the halls emptied, I walked them, just like I had in that other life. My footsteps sure confident. I went to the yearbook room, pulled out the 2000 edition. My hands were steady. I opened it to the students behind the scenes page. And there I was, Ellie Chen, 17 years old, serious, intense, my actual senior portrait, smiling faintly back at me. I'd done it. I'd changed that one crucial moment. That ugly caricature was gone from this reality as if it had never existed. A wave of satisfaction washed over me. Relief. But as I closed the book, a faint unease prickled at the back of my mind. I'd fixed that moment. But life, as I was learning over and over again, had a funny way of throwing you curveballs. New moments, new challenges. The game wasn't over, not by a long shot. 5 years. I've been Principal Chen of Westlake High for 5 years now. In this timeline, it feels good. Right, we've built something special here. Innovative programs that actually work. An inclusive culture that's more than just buzzwords on a poster. Student satisfaction is through the roof. Our test scores are up too. Not that I obsess over those, but the board likes it. And the yearbook? It's a perennial award winner. A beautiful, authentic reflection of our student body. Creative, thoughtful, kind. I rarely think about the rebirth anymore. The memories of that first life, the one that ended with an aneurysm and a second yearbook prank, they feel distant, like a movie I once saw. This reality, the one I've painstakingly crafted, choice by choice, year by year, this is home. I've done it, I've changed things, prevented the cruelty, fostered the good, or so I believe, up until this morning. Maria, my ever-efficient assistant, places the advanced copy of the 2023 Westlake High Yearbook on my desk. Fresh off the presses, Dr. Chen. That old tremor. Just a faint echo this time, but it's there. I pick it up. The glossy cover feels familiar in my hands. I flip to the faculty page, my page, Dr. Eleanor Chen, principal. And I stare. My photograph. It's gone. In its place, a cartoon. A caricature, not math geek this time. Oh no. This one is a stern-faced woman with overly severe glasses, a ruler in one hand, and a speech bubble that says, "Detention for everyone." Beneath it, the caption, "Warden Chen." My breath catches. For a split second, the world tilts. The years telescope. Am I 17 again? 42 in a different 2023? No, I'm here. Now, this is my 2023. The one I built, and still this history. It has a nasty habit of rhyming, doesn't it? Different form, different reasons, but the same gut punch. I lean back in my chair, a slow breath escaping my lips. This isn't the devastating blow it was the first time, or even the furious anger I felt for Zoe. This is something else. A weary sort of recognition, a dawning understanding. I do some digging, quietly. It doesn't take long. A group of seniors, talented, popular, a bit too arrogant for their own good. I disciplined them earlier in the year, cyberbullying. They'd created a fake social media profile for another student, posted embarrassing doctored photos. I'd come down hard, suspensions, mandatory counseling, community service. They hadn't been happy. This was their revenge, their petty, juvenile, a picture is worth 1,000 words revenge. Despite everything, despite all my efforts, all my carefully laid plans, all my rewriting of history, some things, it seems, are harder to change. Teenage cruelty, the urge to lash out, to humiliate. It's a stubborn weed, and that brings me right back to where this whole story started, doesn't it? Me in this office, this yearbook in my hand. But this time, I'm not just the victim or the avenger. I'm the principal. I'm the one who lived it twice. And I know exactly what to do. Maria is aghast when I tell her not to recall the yearbooks. But Dr. Chen, we can't let them get away with this. It's disrespectful. It undermines your authority. Perhaps, I say, reaching for my Mont Blanc, or perhaps, Maria, it's an opportunity. I have the names. Justin, the artistic one, the ringleader, undoubtedly the one who drew the caricature. Melissa, the popular influencer type, probably the one who spread the idea. Two others, a bit more peripheral but complicit. I call them into my office, one by one. They shuffle in, expecting the worst. Suspension. Expulsion, even. Their parents called. Their graduation privileges revoked. They sit stiffly in the chair opposite my desk, eyes downcast, radiating guilt and a sort of sullen defiance. Justin is first. I open his yearbook. I'd asked Maria to discreetly procure copies for each of them. I find a blank page. Justin, I say, my voice calm, conversational. He flinches. That caricature of me. It's quite well done. You have a real talent for graphic design. He looks up, surprised, confused. Thanks. I start to write. Justin, my pen flows across the page. Your creativity is a powerful tool. Use it to build, not to diminish. The world needs more artists who illuminate, not just imitate. I see great potential in you. Don't waste it on cheap shots. Dr. E. Chen, aka Warden Chen. I can appreciate good line work. I hand him the book. He stares at the message, then at me, utterly bewildered. That's it? You're not yelling? Should I be? I ask gently. Go on, Justin. Think about it. Melissa is next, all bravado until she sees the open yearbook. Melissa, I begin. You have a remarkable ability to influence people. A natural leader. Imagine what you could achieve if you used that influence to lift others up, to create positive change instead of I gesture vaguely at my own defaced picture in my copy of the yearbook, which I've left open on my desk. Her message is about responsibility, about the long-term impact of her choices. For each of them, something specific, something insightful, something that shows I see them, not just their prank. I see their potential, their insecurities, the person beneath the teenage bluster. They leave my office not in disgrace, but in a state of profound confusion, which I suspect is far more effective. They talk, of course, the pranksters. What did she say to you? She signed mine. She wasn't even mad. The confusion ripples outwards. The other students are expecting a crackdown, an angry assembly, punishments. When the pranksters, looking sheepish and bewildered, Ask me why I'm not furious, why I'm not expelling them. I finally sit them down together. Angry, I say, looking from one to the other. Oh, I've been angry about yearbook pranks before, more than you know. A flicker of my own past, a hint I know they won't understand. And yes, what you did was disrespectful, it was unkind, and it was a poor use of your considerable talents. I lean forward. But I also understand. I understand wanting to push back against authority. I understand that feeling of power you get, however fleeting, from bringing someone else down, especially someone in charge. I've been on the receiving end of it. And maybe, I pause, choosing my words carefully, in a different life, I might have even been tempted to be on your side of it. I don't tell them about the rebirth, about the two lives, about the 17-year-old Ellie who burned her yearbook. That's my secret, my burden and my gift. But I do share the wisdom, the hard-earned perspective. High school, I tell them, my voice quiet but firm, feels like the entire universe when you're in it. Every drama, every success, every failure feels monumental. But trust me on this, it's just one chapter, a very short chapter in a very long book. The person you choose to be now, the kindness or cruelty you show, the thoughtfulness or carelessness you exhibit, that's not just about today. It's setting a pattern. It's building the foundation for the adult you're going to become, and that adult will have to live with the choices this teenager makes. I look at them, each in turn. I'm signing your yearbooks as your principal, yes, but I'm also signing them as someone who believes, genuinely believes in your potential to be more than this prank, to be better than this. I see that potential, even if you don't see it in yourselves right now. Silence. They're actually listening. Thinking. Justin is tracing the signature in his yearbook with a finger. Melissa is biting her lip, her usual confidence replaced by a vulnerable uncertainty. So, what happens now? One of them finally asks, the quiet one, marking. Now, I say, a small smile playing on my lips. Now we talk about it, all of us. Instead of a punitive, shaming assembly, I organize something different. A year-end gathering, ostensibly to celebrate the seniors, but with a twist. I start by projecting my altered yearbook photo onto the big screen in the auditorium. Gasps ripple through the student body. Nervous giggles. Teachers shifting uncomfortably. The pranksters, sitting together in the front row where I'd asked them to be, shrink down in their seats. This, I say, my voice calm, amplified by the microphone, was meant to embarrass me, to make me feel small, to make you laugh at me. I pause, letting the image sink in, letting them absorb the casual cruelty of it. But here's the thing, I continue, looking out at their faces. I'm not embarrassed, I'm not ashamed, I'm proud of who I am, I'm proud of the work we do here at Westlake together. What does embarrass me? What disappoints me? Is that after all our conversations about respect, about community, about building each other up, some of us still think that humiliation is funny, that tearing someone else down is a good way to get a laugh or to feel powerful. I look directly at the pranksters. Justin, Melissa, Mark, David, would you come up here, please? A wave of murmurs. This is it, they're thinking, the public shaming. But I smile. Not to be yelled at, I say, addressing the entire auditorium. Not to be punished in front of everyone, but to talk, to have a conversation about why this happened and what we as a school can learn from it. To everyone's astonishment, especially their own, I think, they get up. Slowly, hesitantly, they walk onto the stage. They look terrified, but they come, voluntarily. And we talk. That assembly. It wasn't what anyone expected. I didn't grill them. I didn't shame them. I asked them questions about what they were feeling when they planned the prank, about what they hoped to achieve, about whether they'd thought about how it might make someone else feel. And then I opened it up. I invited other students to share, not to point fingers, but to talk about their own experiences. Times they'd felt humiliated. Times they'd seen someone else be targeted. Times maybe they'd even participated in something they later regretted. It was like opening a floodgate. Tentatively at first, then with more confidence, students started to speak. Stories poured out, small cruelties I'd never known about, Casual acts of bullying that had flown under the radar, the pressure to fit in, the fear of being different. What started as an address about a yearbook prank turned into something profound, a watershed moment for Westlake. A raw, honest, uncomfortable, and ultimately healing conversation about school culture. In the days that followed, my inbox was flooded. Emails from parents, thanking me for handling it with grace and turning it into a teachable moment. Notes from students, some anonymous, sharing more stories, or just saying, thank you for understanding. Even some of the faculty, the ones who'd initially thought I was being too soft, came to me, admitting they'd underestimated the approach. You reached them, Dr. Chen, Mr. Davies said, a new respect in his eyes. In a way, I don't think punishment ever could have. And the pranksters? They were transformed. Not overnight, not magically, but slowly, genuinely. They started an anti-bullying initiative, a real one, student-led. They designed posters, Justin's artwork this time used for good. They organized workshops. They started talking to younger students about respect and empathy. They became, to their own surprise as much as anyone else's, advocates for the very things they had, in their own small way, tried to undermine. The ripples spread. Graduation day. My fifth one as principal in this timeline. As I stand at the podium, looking out at the sea of graduating seniors, their families beaming, my speech is about second chances, about growth, about how it's never too late to become a better version of yourself. I don't mention the yearbook incident directly, but I talk about choices, about impact, about the legacy we leave. I weave in subtle metaphors about time, about rewriting our own stories, about learning from the past to build a better future. Words that only I, in the quiet of my own heart, understand the full depth of. After the ceremony, as I'm shaking hands and offering congratulations, the four pranksters approach me: Justin, Melissa, Mark, and David. They're holding a flat, gift-wrapped package. Dr. Chen, Justin says, acting as spokesperson. He's still a little awkward, but his eyes meet mine, clear and direct. We wanted to give you something. I take the gift. It's a framed photograph, a candid shot they'd taken of me during that assembly. I'm mid-speech, my expression passionate, animated, my hands gesturing. It's a powerful photo. It shows strength, conviction, vulnerability. It's the absolute antithesis of their Warden Chen caricature. We wanted you to have a picture that showed, the real you, Melissa says, her voice a little choked up. The one who saw something in us even when we were being idiots. Thank you, I say, genuinely touched. This is a wonderful gift. It is more than a gift. It's a symbol, a testament, a full circle. The school year ends. The hallways are quiet again. I sit in my office, the framed photograph from the students on my credenza next to my Mont Blanc. I reflect. On this strange, looped journey, was this second yearbook prank always destined to happen? Are there fixed points, as the sci-fi shows call them? Moments that will occur in some form or another, regardless of how much you meddle with the timeline? Maybe. Or maybe it's just human nature. Maybe, despite our best efforts, teenagers will always test boundaries, always make mistakes, always have the capacity for both cruelty and remarkable growth. And the rebirth itself, was it literal? Did I actually travel through time, inhabit my younger self, and meticulously reshape 2.5 decades of my life? Or was it all a profound, intricate, stress-induced psychological break after the aneurysm? A coping mechanism? A dream from which I never truly awoke, but instead integrated into a new reality? I find myself, surprisingly, not caring about the how. The why is still a mystery, perhaps one I'll never solve. But the what, the outcome, that's what matters. I've built a life here, a good life, a meaningful life. I've taken the pain of my past, the humiliation, the invisibility, and I've transformed it. Not just for myself, but for countless students who have walked these halls. I've tried to make Westlake a better place, a kinder place. And maybe, just maybe, I've succeeded. Late summer, a few weeks before the new school year begins. Maria buzzes me. Dr. Chen, there's a Mr. Brandon Cole here to see you. He says he's a journalist doing a piece on innovative education. Brandon Cole. The name sends a jolt through me. A flicker of a life lived so long ago it almost feels like someone else's memory. Brandon, yearbook editor-in-chief, architect of Math Geek, the boy on the bleachers confessing his teenage insecurities. And he walks into my office. He's older, of course. Lines around his eyes, a touch of gray at his temples. But it's him. Successful, confident, the journalist he always wanted to be. He doesn't recognize me, not at first. Why would he? He's here to see Dr. Eleanor Chen, principal of Westlake High, a school that's been getting national attention for its positive culture and innovative programs. He sees the accomplished administrator. He doesn't see Ellie Chen, the quiet girl he once planned to humiliate. Dr. Chen, he says, extending his hand. Brandon Cole, thanks for making time. I've heard great things about what you're doing here at Westlake. Mr. Cole, I reply, my voice even, a polite smile on my face. Welcome. Please, have a seat. What can I tell you about our school? We talk about our peer counseling initiatives, our restorative justice practices, our focus on student voice and mental wellness. He's a good interviewer, asks insightful questions, takes copious notes. Then I steer the conversation. Subtly, gently. You know, Mr. Cole, I say casually, you look familiar. Did you by any chance attend Westlake yourself? Many years ago, perhaps? He looks surprised. As a matter of fact, I did. Class of 2000, a long time ago. Ah, I say. I thought so. I was around then too. I ask him if he remembers his time on the yearbook committee. A nostalgic smile touches his lips. Oh yeah, editor-in-chief, believe it or not. We thought we were so important. He chuckles, then his expression sobers a little. Lots of good memories, and a few regrets. Things I wish I'd done differently. High school, you know. I do know, I say softly. There was this one thing, he continues, a frown creasing his forehead, as if dredging up a long-buried memory. A prank. We were planning to play it on this quiet girl, really smart. Amazing photographer, actually, though I didn't appreciate it enough at the time. We were going to mess with her yearbook photo. It was a stupid, mean idea. We didn't go through with it, thank God. Something changed. She sort of came out of her shell, became class president, if you can believe it. Gave this incredible speech at graduation. He shakes his head, a rueful smile. I've always wondered what happened to her. Ellie. Eleanor Chen, that was her name. She was brilliant, but so invisible for so long. And then, suddenly, she wasn't. I let the silence hang for a moment. Then, I lean forward, a gentle smile on my own lips. I think some people take longer to become visible, Mr. Cole. But when they do, I pause, holding his gaze. They can really make an impact. He's staring at me, really staring. The professional journalist facade is crumbling, replaced by a look of dawning, incredulous recognition. His mouth opens, then closes. He blinks. It can't be, he stammers, his eyes wide. Eleanor, Ellie Chen, Principal Chen, is that really you? I nod, a slow, deliberate movement. Hello, Brandon. I allow myself a small, genuine smile. The look on his face is priceless, pure, unadulterated astonishment. But how? When you were, and now you're... He gestures vaguely around my office at the awards on the wall, the general aura of authority I suppose I now project. It's a long story, I say. One I might share with you sometime. Off the record, of course. Brandon is sputtering. Apologies start to pour out of him. For the prank that almost was. For not recognizing my talent sooner. For being a clueless, arrogant teenage jerk. He tells me he spent years trying to make amends in his own way. Mentoring young journalists, championing ethics in media, trying to be a better man than he was a boy. I listen, graciously. And then, I accept his apology. Genuinely. The anger, the hurt, it's long gone. Replaced by something akin to amusement and a strange sort of fondness for that clueless boy he once was, and for the equally clueless girl I once was. Then, I tell him about the recent yearbook prank. Warden Chen, I don't tell him about the rebirth, of course, just the facts of the incident and how I handled it. The signings, the assembly, the student led initiative that grew out of it. He listens, rapt, his journalistic instincts kicking in, but also with a kind of awe. That's remarkable, he says when I finish. Most people would have been furious. They would have brought the hammer down, expulsions, public shaming. I've had practice forgiving teenage mistakes, Brandon, I reply, a hint of a smile in my voice, including perhaps a few of my own from a lifetime or two ago. He doesn't catch the lifetime or two reference, but he gets the rest. He gets me. Finally, Brandon's article isn't the one he originally came to write. It's better. It's a feature, not just on Westlake's innovative programs, but on its principle. On the philosophy of second chances, of restorative justice, of seeing the potential in every student, even the ones who make big mistakes. He doesn't reveal my full backstory, of course. We agreed that would be too much, too unbelievable. But he captures the essence. It gets published in a major national education magazine. The publicity is significant. My phone starts ringing, emails flood in, educators from other districts wanting to learn more about our approach, invitations to speak at conferences. Westlake, and by extension, me, become a small beacon in the often turbulent world of education. A ripple effect. Just as I'd hoped. As the new school year approaches, there's a sense of completion. A quiet hum of satisfaction deep inside me. It's not just about correcting that one specific wrong from my first life. It's about everything that came after. Every choice, every lesson learned, every student I've tried to help along the way. I wonder sometimes if the magic is done. If, having come truly full circle, having faced down the yearbook ghost not once but twice, and emerged not just unscathed but stronger, I might suddenly find myself elsewhere. Back in that original timeline, waking up in a hospital bed, the aneurysm successfully treated, the intervening 25 years a vivid, life-altering dream. But as the first day of school arrives, as I stand at the entrance of Westlake High, greeting the new and returning students, their faces a mixture of nerves and excitement, I know, with a certainty that settles deep in my bones, that I am exactly where I am supposed to be in this present, the one I chose, the one I built. No more loops, no more resets, just life, unfolding. The yearbook committee for the 2023 to 2024 school year. It has some unexpected members: Justin, Melissa, Mark, David, the Warden Chen pranksters. It was their idea. They approached me sheepishly but determinedly at the end of last year. Dr. Chen, Justin had said, we want to be on the yearbook staff, for real this time. We want to make it good, make it right. I could have said no. I could have said they'd abuse the privilege. But I saw the sincerity in their eyes, the desire for redemption. And isn't that what this whole crazy journey has been about? Second chances. So I said yes. But you'll work, I told them. You'll learn, and you'll adhere to the code of conduct. Every single line of it. They have. They're surprisingly dedicated. Justin's design skills are phenomenal, now channeled into creating beautiful, inclusive layouts. Melissa, with her influencer savvy, has actually been great at marketing the yearbook and getting more diverse student submissions. Mark and David are workhorses, meticulous about names and details. I work closely with them as their advisor. I share my expertise. The lessons I've learned over a very long and winding career in and out of yearbook rooms. I don't talk about my first life or the specific details of my own high school yearbook sagas. But it's all there, underpinning every piece of advice I give, every decision we make. I see them changing, growing, taking responsibility, using their talents for good. It's like watching seeds sprout in fast motion. My influence, my belief in them, it's shifting their trajectories. Just as mine was shifted all those years ago when the universe, or whatever it was, decided to give me a do-over. It's a quiet satisfaction watching them. A legacy in motion. Spring, nearing the end of another school year. I have an idea, a time capsule, for Westlake's graduating class of 2024 to open in 25 years. 2049. God, I'll be old. Or maybe I'll be 17 again, who knows with my luck. A dark joke just for myself. Students and faculty contribute items, photos, letters to their future selves, school newspapers, a championship trophy from the girls' soccer team, the usual stuff. My contribution is a simple sealed manila envelope. Inside, there are two photographs. One is a recreation I drew from memory years ago, the math geek caricature that replaced my face in the 2000 yearbook of my first life. A photo that, in this current reality, never existed. The other is my official principal's photo from the 2023 yearbook, the one that was briefly replaced by Warden Chen, but then restored in a way by the student's subsequent actions and growth. Between the two photos, I place a small handwritten note. It reads, "Same person, different choices, different outcomes. P.S. Always check the faculty page before distribution. EC." No one else will understand the full significance of it. But for me, it's an acknowledgement. A private nod to the winding path, the impossible journey. A reminder that who we are is not just about what happens to us, but what we do with it. I seal the envelope and place it in the capsule myself. A small piece of my secret history buried for the future. Another graduation. The cycle continues. I watch the class of 2024, bright, hopeful, a little scared, file across the stage. Among them, Justin, Melissa, Mark, and David. They look different, more mature, more thoughtful. There's a quiet confidence about them that wasn't there a year ago. As I hand out the diplomas, I also give each student a personalized, handwritten note, a tradition I started when I first became principal in this timeline. Words of encouragement, a specific observation about their strengths, a wish for their future. For Justin, I write about his artistic journey, about finding his true voice. For Melissa, about the power of authentic leadership. For Mark and David, about their quiet diligence and the impact of consistent effort. I reference their growth, their positive contributions to the school in their final year. No mention of the prank, no need, we're past that, they're past that. When I reach Justin, he takes his diploma, shakes my hand. Then, unexpectedly, he leans in and gives me a quick, awkward hug. "Thank you, Dr. Chen," he whispers, his voice thick with emotion. For seeing more in me than I saw in myself. For everything. For a fleeting moment, I'm transported. Back to my own graduation. My first one. The loneliness, the invisibility, the burning yearbook. The contrast between that 17-year-old girl and this 40-something woman standing on this stage, not just visible but influential, a shaper of young lives. It hits me with a force that almost takes my breath away. Tears prick my eyes, good tears, tears of gratitude, of completion, and the years roll on. I continue as principal of Westlake High. We build on the foundations we've laid. The school becomes a model, not just for academic excellence, but for kindness, for inclusivity, for fostering genuine human connection. We're not perfect. Teenagers are still teenagers. Mistakes are still made. But the culture is different, better. Former students come back to visit, to share their successes, to tell me how something I said, some program I started, some intervention I made changed their lives. Some of them become educators themselves, taking the Westlake philosophy, my philosophy, out into the world. The Warden Chen pranksters, they stay in touch. Christmas cards, occasional emails. Justin is a graphic designer for a nonprofit. Melissa is in politics, a passionate advocate for social justice. Mark is a teacher. David, a software engineer who volunteers coding skills for community projects. They're good people, doing good things, they learned. I never have another time slip, no more rebirths, no more dizzying collapses into the past. I don't need them. I've made my peace. I've built my reality. The shy, invisible girl who once vowed to leave Westlake behind forever and burn all traces of it, she's become a force for positive change. She's turned her moment of deepest humiliation into a lifetime of purpose. When I finally retire, after many more years than I ever anticipated in that first truncated life, they rename the school library the Dr. Eleanor Chen Learning Commons. There's a dedication ceremony, speeches, awkward but heartfelt tributes from former students and colleagues. They present me with a gift, a specially bound yearbook. Not 1 year, but a compilation. Messages from hundreds of students, spanning my entire tenure. Page after page of gratitude, of memories, of inside jokes. I flipped through it later, alone in my quiet house. From having no one wanting to sign my yearbook to this. Volumes of heartfelt tributes. My eyes blur as I read their words, their stories of how I touched their lives. The final page. It's not a student message. It's a professional portrait of me taken recently. I look content, serene. Beneath it, a simple caption. Dr. Eleanor Chen. She taught us that it's never too late to rewrite your story. I closed the book, a soft smile on my lips. Yes, I did. My last day, I'm packing up my office. Boxes everywhere, 25 years this time, a full, rich, chosen 25 years as principal. It feels complete. I sit for a moment, just looking around, reflecting. The twin lives, the impossible journey. Was it supernatural, psychological, a glitch in the matrix? I still don't know. And I've come to realize it truly doesn't matter. The lessons were the same. The growth was real. A hesitant knock on the open door. A young girl hovers there, small, quiet, a camera around her neck. She reminds me so much of me, the original Ellie, before all the loops and wrinkles in time. Miss Chen? Dr. Chen? Sorry to bother you, she says, her voice barely a whisper. I just wanted to ask, how did you get so confident? I mean, you always seem to know what to do. You're not afraid to stand up for what you believe in, even when people disagree. I wish I could be like that. I smile, a genuine, warm smile. Come in, I say, gesturing to the visitor's chair, now clear of boxes. What's your name? Amy, she says, perching on the edge of the seat. I don't tell Amy the impossible truth. I don't tell her about being 17 and 42 at the same time, about yearbooks defaced and lives relived. But I tell her a truth about finding strength in unlikely places, about learning from mistakes, your own and others, about how high school, for all its intensity, is just one brief, messy, beautiful chapter in a much, much longer story. The secret, Amy, I say, leaning forward conspiratorially, if there is one, is to try and live as if you might get a second chance, even if you know you probably won't. Make choices today that the you of tomorrow, or 10 years from now, will be proud of, or at least understand. Be kind, especially when it's hard. And remember, I tap the camera she's clutching, that sometimes the person who feels invisible today, the one quietly observing from behind the lens, becomes the person everyone sees, the one who helps others feel seen tomorrow. She listens, her eyes wide, soaking it in. When she leaves, there's a new light in those eyes, a little spark of something that wasn't there before. Hope, maybe, or just the courage to take the next step. As the door closes behind her, I feel it. Not the painful, disorienting throb that used to signal a temporal shift, but a gentle sense of rightness, of a circle closing, perfectly, peacefully. My gaze falls on my desk. A copy of the current Westlake High yearbook lies open. My final one as principal. My photograph is there, on the faculty page. Untampered with, surrounded by scribbled messages of appreciation and farewell from students and staff. I run my fingers over the signatures, feeling the imprint of all the lives, all the stories that have intersected with mine in this place. Whatever strange magic, whatever cosmic intervention, whatever twist of fate gave me this second, third, fourth chance at life, I've used it. I hope I've used it well. I didn't just rewrite my own story. I helped, in some small way, countless others find better, kinder, more courageous endings to theirs. I pick up my Mont Blanc one last time in this office. I find a small, empty space on the inside cover of the yearbook, and I sign it. Eleanor Chen. Beneath my signature, I add one final thought, one final lesson. Some moments define us. Others give us the chance to define ourselves. Choose wisely.